Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the leadership stream here on Tuesday morning at EOCP's annual conference for 2022. My name is Ben Kinashenko. I'm on the EOCP Board of Directors, and I'll be your moderation for this stream today. And it is my distinct pleasure to welcome Gracelyn from the town of Gibsons. Gracelyn is the Manager of Operations and Maintenance, or MOM, at the town of Gibsons. As a MOM, she supports the Parks, Public Works, and Wastewater Treatment Plant departments. She doesn't always understand why everyone doesn't immediately jump towards her brilliant ideas, but she's learning that some of them, maybe some of the time, might need some refining first, maybe. Gracelyn does a lot of complaining to managers from other communities who echoes those complaints back. She likes that. But today, she takes a break from this hobby to share with you what she thinks is standing in the way of operators, managers, and their success and operational excellence. Welcome, Gracelyn.
Hi. Thanks for letting me come back, Heather. So last year, I did a presentation at this conference called Why Frustrated Operators Do the Best Asset Management. I was a student at the time and a consultant, so I didn't have any frustrated operators of my own. But a month later, I did get hired into this role, and I remember thinking I should have been probably more careful about what I wished for at that time. But I'm about 9 months in now, and I stand by it. I still really like frustrated operators. I'm not trying to frustrate them, but the ones who are frustrated are really engaged. They're smart, they're trying to find solutions, they're talking to me about how I can help. Like, I still like the frustrated operators. So I get to stand by that. What I did find, though, is they're frustrated for a reason. There's just something going on. I wasn't prepared for the kinds of wars that there were going to be in this role, for sure. And I wasn't creative enough to have come up with the types of fights that I was going to fight. So this presentation, it's a commiseration. Do I have a clicker thing? Oh, some of them are going to be really painful for that. Oh my gosh. Thank you. There we go. Thanks. So this presentation, it's a commiseration. It's maybe a cry for help, and I've got way more questions than answers, and you'll get to know that. But I'm really hoping that with the experience in this room and through us talking about this war, we get somewhere. Where's Gibsons? Gibsons is a small community, less than 5,000 people. It's on the Sunshine Coast. It's not an island, but it is a ferry ride away. Like everyone else, we're going fast, we're changing fast. There's a lot going on. We're trying to keep up. And then me, I'm Gracelyn. I went to BCIT for a while. I realized very quickly that I was probably more suited for an arts degree than an engineering degree. I squeaked by with a diploma and entered the workforce. Worked at a big faceless engineering consulting firm for a while. And then I swung the pendulum and went to a small local government. And I remember in my interview with Gibsons, the first time round, I really focused on purpose and autonomy. And I kind of was suspecting that's what's missing in my work. I got the job, and I think I was right. I really started to care about what I was doing, and I was really able to start to build something that I was proud of. And then I got a new job, dream job, bigger, still building. They seemed so excited about my approach, relationships-based approach, top-down, build policies, get buy-in. And then I was invited to go to South Africa to present on asset management. I was pretty sure I was at the peak of my professional career. I came back from South Africa March of 2020. COVID. I struggled for a few months and ended up back on the Sunshine Coast and started rebuilding. Started a master's, stopped a master's, started a master's again. Started my anti-consulting consultancy, and then got this job, and here I am. So what's this presentation? Like I said, it's a commiseration. It's a discussion, maybe. It was the result of having a few beers. I was back on the island for the first time in a couple of years and reading an article called Why Smart People Are the Worst at Learning. And I wrote the abstract and laughed to myself, and then I sent it to you. And then I woke up in the middle of the night thinking, oh my God, what have I done? But it's about the war. It's about this sense that we have that there's this war going on, a war on operations, that we're trying so freaking hard. And sometimes it just feels like it's not going anywhere. It feels like something's actively pushing back on us. So all these wonderful people, all of you just trying to do our jobs. It's an uphill battle. So what are we going to do with it? That's what this presentation's about. Yeah, agenda, war on operations, what we're going to do about it, the situation, how we'll deal with it. My war this week. So I'm picking one of my war stories, and the one that's the most current, and then I'm going to have to go back and deal with. In Gibsons, we have a beautiful, beautiful sea walk along the ocean. There's boats, kids playing, gardens. It's beautiful. Underneath that sea walk is our sanitary trunk main. And right above the sea walk and our sanitary trunk main, beautiful oceanfront restaurants that I'm pretty sure have not had their grease traps inspected in a very long time. So in February this year, the crew was out doing routine inspections and opened up a manhole, and we're about a foot from the top. We're right on the ocean, foot from the top. There's a blockage. Everybody does their part. Parks comes out, Public Works comes out, the wastewater treatment plant's notified. We do a really good job responding. And I did really good too. I responded amazing. I sent out a big email to the managers and council, maybe even all staff, and I told them all about it. I told them about the risks and the things that we knew and what we're going to do about it, and I was very, very stubborn that we were going to talk about these things and we were going to learn from our incidents. But then that's all that happened, is we talked about it. And a few months later, in June, this time there was a bit of a spill. Not a massive one, but it was the beginning of a spill. This time I'd learned my lesson and I set up a meeting with the CAO, bylaw, building, Public Works, wastewater treatment plant, and we were all going to talk about it and we were going to come up with a plan. So we came up with a very actionable plan. First step is checking our sanitary bylaw. We've got the right things written in there so we can do something about it. We sent out a letter to the business owners and the restaurants and said, we're coming for you, we're going to check your grease traps, be ready, have your maintenance records. And then it came time to actually check those, and nothing happened. And then I followed up, and nothing happened. Then I followed up, and nothing happened. And then I escalated it, and I didn't get the response that I wanted. So then I escalated it again, and we came up with a new plan. And then nothing happened. I followed up, and nothing happened. So this is my war this week, is a plugged sanitary trunk main, preventable, on the ocean. But you guys are going to have your own wars. And I don't know what that is. I don't know what your war is this week. So today I'm talking about grease traps. But what's yours? Is it staffing, budgets, these goddamn millennials that just got hired? Is it maybe even getting enough sleep? What's your war? So let's spend some time acknowledging your war. I don't know if you can write it down. There's not a lot of pads, but that's okay. Yeah. It's hard to pick one. Yeah. Who's in this war? Wars are fought by people, for people. They end because of people. It's all people. So in my war, I'm basically looking at the crews that have to respond to this really gross plugged sewage. That's who I'm fighting for. I'm looking at the restaurants that we're going to have to enforce this bylaw with. I'm looking at my EOCP allies to try to learn from. Looking at council and what they're willing to do to prevent it. These are the people in my war. Who's in your war? Who are you fighting for? Who are you fighting with? And who have you been finding that you're fighting against? Well, there's everybody. Staff, services, residents, infrastructure. Oh, there it is too. So who's in your war? And then what is the war? I did that thing where you pull a definition and then we talk about it. And I totally cherry-picked this one. A war is any situation in which there's a strong competition between opposing sides or a great fight against something harmful. Any situation, strong competition between opposing sides or a great fight against something harmful. We'll loop back to this. So why are we in this war? From last year, I talked about this gap between where we're at and where we want to be. In operations, I feel like we have a unique perspective. We can see things that are going on. We can see the things that are standing in our ways. And we care. So we're fighting. We get into this war, and we keep fighting it. So back to this definition. We're going to work our way backwards. Any situation in which there's a strong competition between opposing sides or a great fight against something harmful. So the something harmful, we're talking about the community's most basic needs, their services. We're making sure that they can turn on their tap and get clean water and flush their toilet and go to the beach and not have untreated sewage in it. These are things that matter, and if they're not taken care of very well, then it's harmful. We're also dealing with the biggest budgets. If we're misusing those, that's harmful. If we're watching it be misused, that's harmful. We're talking about the environment. They can buy electric vehicles all they want, but if there's poop in the ocean, like that's pretty bad. Which brings to a great fight. The things that we know need to get done aren't getting done. Opposing sides. We may agree on where we're going, if we've gotten that far with our leadership teams or managers or councils, boards. we may all agree on where we're going, but even then, what's the most important thing and how we're going to get there, that can put us on opposing sides. Which brings me to strong competition. We're only dealing with so much resources. So sometimes feels like a war to try to get those resources allocated to the things that we know matter. Turning on the tap, all of that. So how to win it? I said in my abstract that I was going to pull on The Art of War. I've read that book, and I really didn't come out of it as enlightened as I'd hoped. So you can read that one if you want. But how not to win a war? There's so many books and articles and researchers that talk about the line between war and business. And they're much smarter than me. And I would recommend that you read some of their stuff if this is something that you're interested in. They're going to talk about, some of them have even been in wars. I have not been in a war. So we take my word with a grain of salt. What I do think is how not to win a war is going to be giving up. Same thing with how not to lose a war, how to not lose a war. These are the things that we read about in those leadership books, war books, negotiation books. There's so many good, well-researched books. You don't need me. How to not lose a war is old business conversation. I like this propaganda being council reports, because that's definitely what I do. Or don't get into a war to begin with. Where are we at for time? Should I slow down? Slowing right down. Wrapping it all up. Grease traps are my war this week. Now what, so what? That's not on purpose. That's not just to drag it out. That's an actual thought happening. What does winning look like? For this war, I would really like a grease trap inspection program. I would like for it to take no time from operations. I would like it to happen now and be the most important thing for everybody. And then I want to have it run perfectly and never have to think about it again. That's my war being won. But I know there's, even if I got that, which I'm not, even if I got that, I'm not going to win the war. They're not going to give me an early retirement. There's going to be the next thing. So what am I working towards? What's next? And I actually struggle with this one because I don't know what winning looks like yet. It's not council's strategic plan. That changes every 4 years. If it's retirement, that is a long, long way away. If it's surviving another day, it might be, maybe. I missed something in here. Ah, that one. Okay, let's go back. My war. And to give context again, this is after this whole thing about all the books. There's so many books. And maybe it's because it's an eye-catching topic. Maybe it's because war is a place where humanity learns very quickly because the cost is life and death. And I wouldn't be surprised if a part of it is because it sells well, because we really like to be the hero in our stories. If we're at war, then we're part of that dramatic movie, and we're fighting the bad guys, and we're the good guys, and we're in the trenches, and it's hard, and people feel bad for us. So when it comes to my war, my grease trap war, I haven't actually decided if that's a war. And what I definitely haven't decided is if I'm the hero of this story. That story about poop in the ocean, that's about my own communication style. When it happened, I sent out the email, and then I just kept talking about it. After I had that meeting, we came up with a plan. But when I say that I followed up and I followed up and I followed up, I mean I sent an email. Hey, how's that thing going? And instead of sitting down with those people, I escalated it and came up with a new plan. And when I say I followed up and I followed up, those are also emails. So if I'm being shy around the people that I feel let me down and climbing up the ladder instead of talking to them directly, am I really the hero of this story? I feel like as operations managers, we have a different view and a different understanding of the system. And that's putting us in a tough spot, and it's setting us up for some real uphill battles. The things we're talking about really matter, but people don't make decisions based on what matters. People are people. People need help. You need to learn from people. There's behaviors and personalities involved, vying, arguing, working together. That's what gets decisions made. And when I think that I'm at war, I start to push away the people who are in a place to help me. I start to be harder to help. Weirdly, I get harder to understand too, and I'm definitely harder to lead. And I just stop being what it is that I want to be for the organization. So even if I am at war, is bringing that really helping? See, this is where we were then going to talk about what winning looks like, and it was going to flow. But if people don't understand it, I think I need to explain it better. If they still don't understand it, I need to learn about how it is that they learn. If people aren't helping, I need to ask for help differently. If the leadership team isn't prioritizing grease traps and making it the most important thing in the world right now, that doesn't mean I'm the hero of the story. That doesn't mean that I'm fighting an uphill battle all day, every day. What I know that I need to do is learn more, talk more, stop following up with emails if I know that it doesn't help. And if anyone's not doing what I want or helping the way that I want, I don't think that they're on the other side of this war. I think they're fighting their own battles and their own wars. Back to wrapping it up. What does winning look like? I don't know. There, recap. So I don't know if I'm the hero of this story. I don't know if I'm in war. I brought my war story that sure feels like it most of the time. And if I win this one, will that mean that I won? Every problem was once a solution to a previous problem. So we get more budget, Now we have more projects to manage. We get a software, now we have to implement it. We get a bigger support team, now there's more rules to follow. We upgrade infrastructure, the next thing's still gonna age and break. Every solution is the beginning of your next problem. And part of what I wanted to say with this is being skeptical of the people who say they're gonna win your war for you. There's not a quick fix. And there's no black and white here. There's a lot of unknowns. And I don't think that there's an easy way out. What I do know is that no one is going to fight your war for you. I returned to Gibson's after 2 years of being away. And when I had left, I thought I did everything right. I had set the next person up with a big list of all of my wars and battles, the contact information for all of it, where they're at, what the next step is. I'd handed them the battle strategy. You're welcome. But I came back 2 years later, and I don't know if any of those moved forward while I was gone. Which doesn't mean people weren't fighting. They were fighting their own wars, right? And my predecessor, too, he was fighting his own wars, and when he handed it over to me, when I read the documents and the emails, some of these words I don't even know. Like, it's gonna take some time for me to take that baton and move forward with it. I can't fight the same war the same way that he did. So when I leave this position, I know that no one is going to care about these things quite the same way that I did. And I know that because in 2017 is when I started the grease trap in my previous job, was starting to contact these restaurants, get everything ready. And when I left, nothing happened for a few years, and that's not their fault. So I've been in this role for just 9 months. I'm very feisty, and if I feel like something is threatening something that I care about, then I'll fight. But I'm very tired. I don't know if you guys are tired. I'm only 9 months in. Some of you guys have been here for decades. And I'm already getting tired. So being really clear about what keeps us fighting and what winning looks like, I think is important. I talked to a friend about this presentation this week, and she liked it, but she said this: it's kind of obvious about what's going on. It's post-COVID, things are hard, we get that. What's not as obvious is where the inspiration comes for us to keep doing whatever it is that we're doing. So for me, what keeps me fighting is wanting to leave things better than I found it. I really genuinely want to leave things better than I found it. And I want to help the frustrated operators that I work with. I don't want to leave them worse off than when I came. What keeps me fighting? I like this conference because I love operators. Like, what you guys do is amazing. I've never been an operator, but I'm so impressed by the teams, by what you all do, what you're all fighting for. It blows me away. There's courage, there's tenacity, there's technical expertise, and it's for some of the most important things that keep our communities together. So, what keeps you fighting? Maybe there is a war on operations. Maybe there's a way to win it or get wins. My call today and what this is all about is wanting to acknowledge that we have our wars, wanting to acknowledge that entertaining the idea that we might not be the hero of our wars is going to open up different ways of dealing with things and different solutions. It's going to be challenging, though. I wanted to put the thought in your head to think about what winning looks like to you, and I think it's going to look different to you than it looks like to me. And most importantly, I just want to call you guys to not stop fighting and stay frustrated. Thank you.
Thank you, Gracelyn. I'll go to the room for questions, but before I do that, there's a couple online. Okay. So the first one, I think, is more of a comment. Thank you for this. It is helpful but sad that others also have this issue. I can't seem to get my organization planning and development to understand access to infrastructure. Older developments in the community have manholes located in gated and fenced private backyards. Planning says I can't just go into the yards via the fence gates without permission, but I do have access to the 3 feet around the manhole to check it. So after years of requesting right-of-ways with no change, now I have to request a jetpack for the operators.
I like that.
That sounds like next year's budget request.
And then she puts a sad, like, colon,
Aw.
more.
Personally, I'd be a lot more positive about having a jetpack, but... The next question from Alan Midgley. How do you make your people own your projects, buy in, and run those projects to the benefit of the stakeholders?
How do I make people buy into my projects?
How do you motivate people to buy into your projects?
I would be interested in learning what that person is currently doing to try to make people buy into their projects. I don't think I can make anyone do anything. And I definitely think that if I come to them and say, these are my projects, that would be a hard sell too. I know what the master's stuff would say, which is like building a shared vision and building buy-in early in the process and all of that. And I know it's hard too, though, because similar to trying to explain to the organization that what we do is important, water on, toilet flush, poop out of the ocean, it's also hard to have your colleagues understand the other side and projects that you also know is important. I don't have a good answer for that question, but maybe asking why there's no buy-in. Hey, having a hard conversation. Hey, this is something that's really important to me. I've noticed that you don't seem very engaged in it. Why is that? Why don't you think it's important? What's your understanding of what's important? Could we have a conversation like that? Is that allowed? Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Gracelyn. There's another comment online, just a great list of books and resources, so thank you for that. We'll open it up to the room if anyone else has questions for Grace.
Yeah, just a comment, coming from a place where we deal with aging infrastructure and what you deem as a war, like you didn't start the war, it was in place before you got there too. And the war, unfortunately, not to be negative, will never end. But you can win battles within the war if you look at it that way, because the war is the war. So you can only do the best you can in this time.
Yeah.
That's our 2 cents worth anyway. Because you can't fix everything. I mean, people get excited, they come into a new role, they're like, I'm going to fix everything, but it's been messed up for a long time. So you can try your best, and then other people can carry on the war.
Yeah.
But
Agreed.
I don't know if you'll ever win, if there's an end,
No.
until the city goes away.
Thank you.
Mr. Joe, here I come.
Yeah, I agree with what he said there. I run lots of water systems, and there's just never-ending challenges. You're never going to win. But what I do is to try and help is I try and identify the weakest, nastiest, poorest link in the system, and I start working my way down. And then, so whatever's giving you the most trouble, start there, concentrate your efforts on that, get that done, and then kind of work your way down. And I like to compare it to utilities, so like an old car, right? You know, it's not going to last forever, and you constantly need to replace the parts on it and do stuff. But at a certain point, it's time to let it go too. So, you know, you have to have renewal projects in place eventually, because the frequency of breaks and failures just starts to increase. So a lot of planning and stuff, but and then maybe just look at it as more of rather than a fight or a war, as maybe a challenge, right? And just
Yeah, I
keep
like
working
that.
your way down, and really when it starts getting quiet, you're winning.
Thank you.
Hi. The question I have is the war because of lack of financial, or is the war because of lack of understanding of the critical infrastructure? All of the above. I mean, that's generally what most cities are going through. I just didn't quite understand the problem in Gibson's. Is it the public not understanding?
The example that I used was really about the internal coordination of trying to deal with these things. And it's all interconnected, right? It's really hard to give a hard answer of what the problem is, because maybe if we had more staff to take stuff off of overloaded managers, we would be able to address this properly. Or if we had more money, then maybe we could get a contractor. Or maybe if we designed the system better, then we wouldn't have these things. Like it's hard to unbraid that.
Yeah, it's we're most places are dealing with aging infrastructure, and things weren't necessarily built with the idea of the builder's going to do the maintenance. Oh, I won't have to worry about that. Somebody 20 years from now will deal with that. And so those are huge challenges. And,
Yeah.
and I agree. Having the perception of it being a challenge might be a little less overwhelming, because it's overwhelming for everyone involved. And the operators can be a good strength and resource, and I speak as an operator, because we're the crazy people that flush a toilet and wonder where it goes and what happens. We know it's not done by magic, right? And
I
we're
love
the
it.
crazy people that turn the tap on and go, how the heck does that get there? And why is it safe to drink? And then we choose a career in this industry. And, you know, so I would say if you have a good rapport with the operators, if you don't establish a rapport, if you do have a good rapport, lean on your operational team, because they are an immense resource that conferences like this recognize,
Yeah.
and can be very constructive if the team is built effectively.
Thank you. I do have the best operators,
No, you don't.
but I'm biased.
Another question here, Grace.
Graceland, a very long time ago, I was in a role. A very long time ago, I was in a position similar to what you are, as a facilitator for a continuous improvement program. And I thought this was going to be simple. Here's a project, bring a bunch of people to the table, we'll find the solution. What I learned very quickly was that it doesn't quite work like that. The first person that had to learn was me. And so I had to go and find the self-help. Out of a number of different events like this, I came up with one statement that I've tried to carry for my whole career. And that being, you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. And you're no better than the worst in your group. Mm-hmm. So you have to carry them, but you also have to be able to keep the project moving forward. So then we went through the whole program of how do you do that? What tools do you need? Like how do you measure your success? Because if you can't measure your success, which isn't the very end of what you want to get to, it's that one step. Mm-hmm. And you got to be able to show that and show that to everybody on the table. We got that little bit. Oh, look, we got $5,000 for this. We didn't get the $100,000 that we asked for, but we got $5,000. And if you can start to develop that and show that this isn't about you, it's about the group of people that are at that table, then you'll get more buy-in, more ideas, consensus building, all these things that you have to bring to the table. Success doesn't come overnight. It takes a very long period of time.
Damn it.
So get used to it.
Hi. Thank you for sharing your story. It's kind of refreshing to see a young professional such as yourself walk in and probably right away notice that you're going to be fighting an uphill mud flow probably your entire career. I do want to point out that within our system here, every time an operator is asked, what do you think we should do? Our answer is beyond cost prohibitive. We know exactly how to fix our problems. But the fact is, this is public money, and the public wants Band-Aids, just like you duct tape your taillight on rather than buying a whole new taillight. It's just, it is what it is, but it keeps us employed. It keeps us thinking outside the box because now we have to fix it ourselves. I really hope that other professionals that may be in this audience or in your audience can build up the courage to bring up your scenario and your type of fight going forward, because without you seeing these problems from an office and from a small town, it's impossible for us to see an end to it. And we're coming into winter season, rain season again, and after last year, if cats and dogs fall out of the sky, I'll probably just smile and go, yep, knew that was coming. But thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you so much.
All right, we've got 1 minute left for any remaining questions. See, I have one kind of more of a comment online. As boots, well, it's a question as well. As boots on the ground, how do I get the written strategic plan from above? Frustrated here too. Seems like they expect me to understand them, like I can mind read.
That's challenging. When I was a consultant for Gibson's, I consulted myself back. I also knew that they had so much good information to be able to put together a written strategic plan, and it was the bane of my existence being a consultant on the outside looking in, being like, do it. So it's hard to not be in a position to make the changes that you know are going to help. It's hard to build accountability upwards. Maybe, why do you want a written strategic plan? And what can you achieve in your role that contributes to that? I don't know. Anyone had any success with that? From an operations standpoint, getting somebody upwards to write a strategic plan? Ah, success. Oh, darn.
Heather, is there a mic for Tara? Thank you.
So I'm with the City of Surrey in operations, water operations specifically. We do have a strategic plan, and we have our Surrey Excels program as well, that where we're collectively putting together really projects that we want to be working on. We're held accountable in the sense that we have to report on it. Management now are what we call our paid for performance. It's like our bonus that we get is now tied to the success of those Surrey Excel programs. So it's definitely making some progress, but from my experience, what I'm finding is that because no one's holistically looking at the projects that are being identified, and people are literally scrambling to just put ideas forward so that they get put on a piece of paper, that there's a lot of conflicting priorities.
Yeah.
And overlap of who's doing what. So if you put for example, if you put an asset management project forward, that involves everyone in engineering and operations. It can't go forward without everyone's buy-in. But each of us have already established our own priorities. So now how do you fit in the additional project that came, say, from engineering that's now impacting operations? So that's where I see it starts to break down. Is that we're not sharing, we maybe have too many projects on the go, all competing for the same IT resources, whatever it is to make those improvements. And it's the same staff that need to keep the system running. And for example, in my position, it's that reacting every day to the same things. I still have to do that. And then the expectation that we would be moving forward with other planned projects is very, very challenging.
Yeah.
So I think one of the solutions is getting involvement for every project that gets identified with everyone that's impacted by that project before it gets placed on a strategic initiative or whatever you want to call it. And everyone calls it something different. But.
Is there room for you to have that input into the process and talk about what's not working with it?
Yes, but it's also like a giant cog that's just moving.
Yeah.
So difficult to change direction when things are already in place, and some of those targets are multi-year. So I think it's a good concept, but it's quite easy for it to sort of get derailed.
Yeah, agreed. So you had a solution to their problem, which created your new problems. Are your problems better now than before the strategic plan?
No, they're still there. It's the same
No.
problems every day, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I have no good answer for that, but thank you for sharing. That's the other side of it. Shall I let people go?
We had one more comment online that I thought was relevant, and it's from Kevin M. It says, as a leader, we do not fight the wars. Our staff fights the wars. We lead. Delegation, which empowers individuals. You can use your chief operator to lead on grease trap maintenance.
Poor Paul. And I agree. It's again, those parallels between business and war, there's a lot on it. And one of the things is the people in the trenches versus the support and leadership and how they're supporting them to actually fight the war.
All right, I think we shall wrap up.
Thank
but,
you.
But thank you very much, Graceland. Have a
Round of applause, please.